What up, everybody? This is Mr. View, and today we're going to be talking about the Russian Revolution. We started yesterday, and we started talking about how bad the Russians were at war, right? They were sending guys in there with not enough weaponry or ammunition and not enough supplies, and then there was not enough supplies of fuel at home, so they revolted, right? And they got out of World War I, and then the United States entered, right? America. But we want to know a little bit more about that Russian Revolution. And it actually started in 1917. And a lot of the Russians were upset because of the war itself, right? Millions of people died in that Russian war. The death toll was huge for Russia, especially. They had a famine in their country, and they weren't getting enough food to their troops. And then there was a lack of money. The whole country was pretty poor and backward. Remember, they were still practicing feudalism. So they were really, really struggling in Russia. And that is ripe for a revolution. This one group in particular really wanted the power, and they were called the Bolsheviks. And the Bolsheviks were socialist, right? And we like to say that they were communist, but they were a socialist group, and their leader was a guy named V.I. Lenin, right? Vladimir Lenin. And he was a super famous guy. He became super famous, obviously, as the leader of the revolution in Russia. There was a scrum for power after their czar, Nicholas II, was killed, right? And so different groups tried to grab this power, and the communists, the Bolsheviks, ended up grabbing power. Their promise was peace, land, and bread, right? So they didn't want war, they wanted land for everybody, and they wanted enough food for everybody. They overthrew the government in 1921, and they took over. They signed a treaty with Germany ending their involvement with World War I, even though it was prior, right? They'd already been out of the war. But then Lenin died in 1924. And so the communists, they decided, hey, we're going to put him in the Red Square, a famous place in Russia. And they left his body laying out so everybody could see him. He was embalmed, and, you could go see V.I. Lenin sitting out there or laying out there in state for 65 years. Even though his wife wanted him buried, that wasn't the case. The communist, he was the symbol of communism, if you will. And so they laid him in state for 65 years. Then there was another scrum for power. Even though the communists have control of Russia at this point, there's different fighting factions, right? One guy was a guy named Trotsky, and one guy was a guy named Stalin. And they fought for power for a little while. And eventually, Stalin becomes the leader of Russia and the leader of the Communist Party. Stalin, his name was actually Joseph Jugashvili. And he became Joseph Stalin. He renamed himself, if you will. And Stalin means man of steel, right? Man of steel. He has a bunch of 5-year plans. In his government, or his form of communism, the government owns all of the businesses. There's no private ownership of business. And we've talked about this in the past, right? He rewarded people who met their quotas, who produced enough goods, and then he punished those people who did not produce enough goods. Production went way up as a result, but the quality of goods went way down. That was a problem with communism and socialism in general. When everybody's getting paid the same, as long as you churn out goods, it doesn't matter how good those goods are. And so that was a problem in communism, and especially in Russia. I want you to watch this other video about Joseph Stalin right now, and then answer some questions. I was short on my lecture, so you can watch that video and answer the questions. He's an interesting dude. And you think Hitler killed a lot of people? Nah, This dude, just as bad, probably worse. See ya.